Hi, and welcome to Premier Automotive News. I'm Jim Dotson, and joining me today is my good friend Troy Duhon. Troy, good to have you.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Troy, you've been in the car business for many, many years. Tell me, why the car business?
Jim, my daddy was in the car business, and as a kid growing up, 8, 9, 10 years old, you would just be amazed at the demos he would bring home. Like, he had a white-on-white Charger Superbird. What would that car be worth today? So as a kid, you'd be like, wow, look at that cool car. So, every kid wants to have his own car. So needless to say, I got fascinated with the cars that he would bring home. So my intuition was like, wow, this could be a great business because I get to drive all these cars. So that was kind of what inspired me. Was my dad was in the business, and then just being enamored with all the cool cars he'd bring home.
So I'm guessing that really your first job in the car business was as a salesman, right?
Actually, my first job was I washed cars. So at 15 years old, if you bought a car, I was at the wash rack. My daddy said, it's important, son, you learn every aspect of the car business. So he made me work on the wash rack at 15 years old.
So when did you become a car salesman?
Well, legally, you can't sell cars to 18. So the summer of my 18th year, I was actually selling cars and loved it. Matter of fact, my first month of the business, I was salesman of the month. I was one of those young guys, made everyone feel happy, and hey, I'm going to college, buy a car for me, help me pay for my education. My dad's the boss, I'll give you a great deal. And kind of went to my dad and said, Dad, this is easy. I don't need to go to college. And he said, really? You don't need to go to college? Good, I'm gonna fire you, so you have to go to college.
Well, when did you purchase your first dealership? Because you own several now, but do you remember when you purchased your first one? How old were you?
Actually, I bought into my first dealership when I was 25 years old, which is very young in the auto business. Took that store, built it up, and then sold out, and then bought my first, on my own, Toyota store at age 30, which, according to Toyota at the time, I was the youngest Toyota dealer in the world. And but again, like I said, when you path a path for your life and you know what you want to do, then every decision you make is toward that goalpost. So I always wanted to be a very young car dealer, and I was just focused to it. And at 30 years old, my dream came true.
Troy, so you said your dad fired you. You went to college. Tell me where you went to school.
Actually, I went to high school here in New Orleans at Archbishop Shaw High School, but then I was a big LSU Tiger fan, so I ended up in Baton Rouge at LSU, and started in '82 and graduated in May of 1986. And interesting enough, I was very proud and independent, so I told my parents, don't worry about college, I'm gonna pay for it. I sold cars every summer and winter break. So that's how I paid for school. I would literally take an exam on Friday, be on the showroom floor Saturday selling cars.
So Troy, I know you have a lot of people that come through the doors there at your dealerships, and you have young people that come to you looking for advice. I have two questions. One is, what advice would you give a high school grad, someone who's just graduated high school?
For every high school grad, they have to make a choice whether I'm going to college or not. The cool thing about the automobile business, whether you decide to become a technician or an automobile salesman, there's a path that doesn't require a college education. Literally, you have many master technicians making 6 figures a year that just got a high school degree. But because they're passionate about working on cars, they go through ASC certifications, they get manufacturer training, and today you got technicians now making $150,000, $200,000. On the sales side, for a high school graduate, again, you don't need a college degree. And the cool thing is you can start in auto sales and then go to finance, sales management, used cars, because a requirement to become an automobile dealer, you don't have to have a college degree.
And then tell me about the path that you took, where you went to college, but then during breaks and so forth. So is that still available to college grads today?
Actually, you have colleges that now have automobile degrees, like you have Northwood in Dallas, you got NADA. So those who want to become a dealer, maybe they want to fast track, a lot of times you can go into specific curriculums and majors that are automotive related. Most automobile dealers either came through marketing or management.
Okay. So your advice for college grads, that
know what you want to do, be passionate about what you do, and don't just rely on a college education. Be a student of the industry. Subscribe to the magazines, subscribe to the blogs, get as much data as you can. Because data and wisdom is what's going to allow you to become that manager, become that dealer, what's going to impress the manufacturer on your application is really all the 360 training that's available.
All right, I've got another two-part question for you. Describe your favorite moment as dealer. And I know you have a lot, but tell me what comes to mind.
Think of the single mother with 3 children, and she has bad credit, maybe for hospital bills. She comes in, she doesn't think she can get a car. And lo and behold, we put her in the Premier plan, and she leaves in a car. I mean, I've literally seen women with tears in their eyes of joy. And we help them reestablish their credit. I've literally seen women come in, buy a car, 3 to 5 years later own a house. So my greatest joy as a dealer from a customer perspective is taking that customer that doesn't have hope and we give them hope. And we make that dream of owning a car reality. On the employment side, we have a program, we believe in becoming dream makers. So in the automobile business, it takes a lot of capital to buy a dealership. So when we take a young man that we raised through the ranks, and then all of a sudden we give him the keys to the dealership, we give him the checkbook, and now he becomes a partner. I just made that man's dream come true, and that guy has tears in his eyes. So for me, my greatest moments is helping the customer that doesn't have hope, and then making a dream come true for the young man to become an owner.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm sure you also have some challenges as a car dealer. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, there's always a lot of challenges because you have a lot of employees, you have a lot of government agencies you answer to, so there's always an ongoing regulatory, so you have to make sure that your people are trained because there's always truth in lending, there's also any type of automobile specific, ASC training, so you have to constantly, all the time, be upgrading training. So that becomes tough because you're constantly trying to get your people trained. And so that's a little burdensome, but you have to have it. Some of the other challenges is that the manufacturers sometimes can be difficult to deal with. You want to do a great job for them, and you go out your way to build these beautiful facilities. You buy extra inventory, then all of a sudden the car they produce has a lemon. Now all of a sudden, how do you handle that one? So you got to adhere to the regulatory side of it, and then you got to make the manufacturers happy. So those can be sometimes burdensome.
And at the same time, make the customer happy, right?
You always have to make the customer happy. The customer determines whether or not you make it. It isn't the federal regulatory agencies, it isn't the manufacturers. The customer is always king.
Well, I'm sure in all of your years in being in the car dealership, you've seen a lot of changes. Tell me, what role is the internet playing in your business today?
Interesting. The internet is truly giving customers the ability to shop online. It's so funny, when I was selling cars in '82, you wanted to go look for a car, you had to drive to a dealership. So you drive to this dealership, that dealership, this dealership, that dealership. Now, with the push of a finger, you can shop online, and you can look at availability of inventory, you can do your credit app online, you can get a price quote online, you can get your trade value from the convenience of your own bedroom, your office. So it has made it more efficient for consumers to determine what they want, how do I get the best price, how do I get the most for my trade, and how do I get my loan approved. So the internet has been a godsend for the consumers, and it's made us a lot more transparent. It also has made the car dealerships a lot more efficient. So we respect your time. You can literally buy a car online in less than 30 minutes now.
That's amazing.
It is.
Well, let's talk about you personally. What are your hobbies? What are some of the things you like to do in your spare time?
Well, when you have 4 kids, 4 kids have a tendency to take up a lot of time. But personally, obviously, I love to play golf. I love basketball. And you know what? I like hanging out with my kids. I mean, literally, my daddy would always say, son, what legacy are you going to leave? And you know what? No one's going to ever remember how many cars I sold in my career. But people are going to remember me by my kids. And it's imperative that my kids understand hard work. There's no substitute for hard work. And truly, what we do in the community is a big deal, and they need to see that. So I've made sure that they get that.
Great. Well, I guess that dovetails into the next question, which is, what motivates you?
What motivates me is giving back. I mean, after Katrina was such a defining moment in my life, to watch all my employees completely lose everything they had. Every dealership I had was underwater. My Toyota store was 10 feet underwater. and watch my employees who decided to help me get the dealerships reopened before they even pulled the sheetrock at their own house. It was humbling for me. We actually ran a FEMA relief center at our Honda store. And Jim, we were running 1,200 cars a day.
Wow.
So here's my employees pulling sheetrock. My church members were helping me, and we're feeding people. We're helping them with ice and diapers. It was amazing. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? This is what it's about. So for me, the motivation is not how many cars I sell, it's how can I give it back to the community? How can I leave a legacy in the community?
Troy, looking back over the last 35 years of your career, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
You know, that's a good question. Toyota gave out an award 2 years ago. It was called Best in Town. And it wasn't for the guy who sold the most cars. It wasn't for the guy who made the most money. It wasn't even for the guy with the highest customer satisfaction. It was for the guy who went in the community and did the most. And we won it at Toyota New Orleans. And I gotta tell you, my wife and I walked on that stage, and there was no greater moment in my life other than walking down the wedding aisle with her, was to go up there with my wife and accept this award from the president of Toyota Worldwide. And I remember a fellow dealer looking next to me, goes, you know what, Duhon, you just raised the bar. Because they were so touched. We actually operate a full staff kitchen in our Toyota store. We cook 1,000 hot meals a day and feed all the seniors that live in assisted living centers and the single parent families, the kids after school program. Wow. So every day at that Toyota dealership, we cook 1,000 hot meals. So for me and my wife, that was a defining moment. We were so, not because it's because people understood what we were trying to do.
Great. Well, what does the future look like for Troy Duhon?
You know, we're going to keep growing. Obviously, we love the fact that we're buying dealerships, going back into the community. Some of the cool things we do is through our foundation, Giving Hope, we actually build an orphanage through the dealerships every year. We've built 4 orphanages, Hyderabad, India, Honduras, Gambia, Africa, and this year we're opening one in Moscow, Russia. And next year we're going to go to Brazil. So the future for us is we want to continue to build an orphanage every year as a dealership group. We want to continue feeding programs. We actually operate a Second Harvest food pantry here in New Orleans, where we gave away close to 2.2 million pounds of food last year, and we cooked close to 200,000 hot meals. We want to duplicate those efforts in Kansas City, and then we're partnering with some other food program systems in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. So we want to continue the community outreach. We want to continue the whole concept of profit for a purpose through our foundation, Giving Hope.
You know, I think it says a lot about you when I ask you what the future is, and it's not really about selling cars, which, I mean, I know that's there, but you're really talking about all the ways that you can give back to the community.
You know, when my daddy passed away, one of the last things my daddy told me was, he said, son, no one's going to remember how many cars you sold in your career, but the good Lord's counting every time you bless his people. And that was a defining moment, because he's right. It ain't going to be like on my tombstone, here lies Troy Duhon, who sold 2 million. No, it's people going to remember the legacy of giving back. And not just what we did in the community, but these partners, these general managers that we have groomed, because it's in their DNA now. Now they realize the value. You know, it's for me, it's just been incredible to see the lives that are being affected because of automobile sales.
Well, and to talk about that for just a second, what struck me is that every time someone buys a car, they're really participating with you in the Giving Back program, right?
Yeah, every car we sell, we accrue $25 to go back into the local community. So Giving Hope, our foundation, does several things. We obviously operate a full staff kitchen, a Second Harvest food pantry, we build orphanages, we actually fund special need adoptions. So every year there will be a special need child that we will fund the adoption. Maybe someone has a heart for adoption, okay, but they don't have the pocketbook, so we fund that. And then just recently here in New Orleans, we partnered with the New Orleans Mission, and we opened up the Giving Hope Retreat Center. So there's a 60-acre facility in Lacombe, Louisiana, that takes homeless men drug addicts, alcoholics who don't want to live on the street no more. They want to get cleaned up, and they relocate them to the Giving Hope Retreat Center, and we're graduating close to 100 men a year, giving them a second chance at life. We help place jobs for them. We actually, sober them up, and we just give them hope. We give them a future.
Excellent. Well, we have just one final question here is, what do you credit your success to?
My dad. What's amazing, I would tell everyone who's watching this program, when my daddy was alive, I'm like, Daddy, this ain't the 60s no more. We do things different in the 90s. And you know what? My dad was smart. And what he said, I look back today, now he's gone, is so real. You gotta look at people. You gotta look at their heart. You gotta understand what real legacy is. What's the real purpose for what you do? And he challenged me to make it more about legacy than wealth. Son, leave a legacy. Don't create wealth. And you know what? I miss him, but I never forget what he told me.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Troy, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us a little insight into you and your life and a little bit about your dealerships. And I want to thank you for joining us here at Premier Automotive News. Until next time, I'm Jim Dotson.